Welcome to This Explainer. Today, we're unpacking something absolutely fascinating, the deeply emotional, psychological timeline of a breakup. But we're looking at a very specific scenario. We're diving into exactly what happens beneath the surface when one person finally realizes, wow, I just lost a partner who truly gave me their best. We're going to map out this hidden emotional journey, step by step, using insights from our source material to really understand the mechanics of value, of loss, and ultimately, how we reclaim ourselves. Let's get right into it.
The source material hits the nail on the head with this thought. We often do not see how much something is worth until it is gone. It's kind of wild, right? Human psychology has this massive blind spot. We're going to explore how the end of a deep connection is rarely this sudden cinematic twist of fate. Actually, it's almost always a slow, creeping realization of value that just slips right through someone's fingers. People get so used to having someone around, literally counting on their presence like a heartbeat. It's only when that steady rhythm stops that the true worth of the relationship comes into razor-sharp focus.
All right, Section 1, the silent shift, the masking phase.
So, right after the separation, the true impact of the loss is actually totally hidden behind a protective, psychological mask. Deep down in that quiet place where pride just can't hide the truth anymore, a person goes through a very predictable progression. Step 1 is the brave face. You know the one, acting like moving on is a walk in the park. This usually evolves into Step 2, the brightest smile, which is really just a defense mechanism to cover up a deeply sad realization. But eventually, bam! We hit Step 3, the deafening silence. This is that brutal moment when the quiet phone and the absolute lack of notifications become a sound so loud it's impossible to ignore.
And what creates that deafening silence? Well, it happens when all that warm energy and those daily habits that were completely taken for granted suddenly vanish like smoke in the wind. The good morning messages, the little check-ins just to see how her day was going, that deep listening where you actually understood the feelings behind her words? Gone. Poof. Actions that felt so normal and expected when they happened every single day suddenly transform into these incredibly rare treasures the second they disappear.
Moving right along to Section 2. Realizing what was lost, the comparison phase.
This is where the human brain does what it does best. It starts comparing the present reality with the past. When she goes out and meets new people, she gets hit with a stark contrast. Common attention and temporary distractions, they just don't measure up to real, honest care and deep understanding. Look, anyone can toss out surface compliments, but showing up consistently when things are genuinely hard, that is extremely rare. And every time a new interaction feels just a little bit off, that truth speaks way louder than her pride ever could.
All of this comparison ultimately creates what we're calling the void. Her reality right now is a quiet phone and the sudden, jarring absence of safety. Your impact was being that sturdy wall to lean on, a wall she just assumed would always be there to hold her up. As she navigates this massive void, your quietness actually begins to hurt way more than your words ever did, because now she's forced to look at what life actually feels like without that unbreakable support system. She starts to truly understand that real, honest care is literally like finding a diamond in a pile of rocks. A man who gives his time and his heart without holding back or keeping a scorecard, unbelievably rare. And once that diamond is gone, trying to find someone else to fill that space is so much harder than she ever expected.
So, this brings up a massive psychological pivot. What happens when the chasing stops? Take a second and really think about it. What exactly happens when the unappreciated partner finally stops trying to prove their worth, stops asking for a crumb of attention, and just walks away? Let's look at Section 3, when the chasing stops, the pivot.
This right here is the exact moment the entire dynamic of the relationship completely flips. And the absolute key takeaway? This shift doesn't happen because of anger or bitterness. It happens out of a profound, rock-solid realization of true self-worth. Human nature usually tricks us into expecting people to stay exactly the same. Her expectation is that you'll remain the guy who always stays, who forgives over and over, just waiting around like a lost puppy. But your reality? It's entirely different. You are walking forward into your own future with incredible purpose and direction. You aren't waiting by the phone. You aren't trying to explain yourself anymore. You are simply moving on.
The crucial point here is that the very second you stop asking and begging for someone to notice you, your true value shines through to the world. When you stop forcing those broken conversations and absolutely refuse to keep proving you are good enough, people actually start to notice the massive space you used to fill. Your absence suddenly commands the exact respect that your presence was begging for.
Which brings us to Section 4, the uncomfortable transformation, uncomfortable growth.
As you move forward, an uncomfortable but incredibly powerful transformation unfolds for the person who is now forced to watch you grow from a distance. Look, growing up and healing, it changes a person from the inside out. You learn some fundamental, non-negotiable lessons. Love shouldn't cost you your dignity. Equal effort is an absolute requirement, and maybe most importantly, you are a deeply valuable person even if someone else completely failed to recognize it. When she sees you learning these lessons and actually living by them, it hits her just how much she let go of.
Seeing you get stronger creates a really messy mix of feelings inside her. To put it into perspective, it's about a 40% dose of pure shock that you are actually okay and thriving without her. Then, there's about 30% sadness over how the whole thing ended, mixed right in with another 30% of deep, newfound respect for your strength. She fully expected you to stay in the dark like some forgotten memory, but instead, you found peace all by yourself.
And this leads to an undeniable conclusion. She is forced to face the incredibly uncomfortable truth that the old version of you, it's gone, completely. The person who used to wait around for hours, the person who accepted not knowing where they stood, that person's heart, mind, and spirit have fundamentally transformed. Because once you grow into who you are meant to be, you literally cannot shrink back into who you were.
And finally, Section 5. Reclaiming your future, moving forward.
This is where the pain of the past officially becomes the unshakable foundation for a much healthier, self-directed future. While you're out there moving forward, she's often stuck in this timeline of processing memories. It usually starts with spontaneous triggers, maybe a familiar song on the radio, or walking past that coffee shop you two used to visit. That leads straight into the what-ifs. What if she had listened more? What if she had seen your worth earlier? But time is like a river, right? It only flows one way. Eventually, she hits the ultimate truth. She didn't just lose your attention. She lost someone who truly wanted to give her their absolute best self.
But let's look at your side of the equation, because it's a completely different story. You are busy building your life brick by brick, actively transforming past pain into present strength. Heartbreak? That's converting directly into wisdom. Disappointment has literally become the high-octane fuel pushing you forward. And those painful thoughts? They are now fully integrated life lessons. Losing her wasn't the end of your story at all. Actually, it was the exact catalyst you needed to discover your own hidden strength.
Because of this journey, your standards have permanently leveled up. You've learned that healthy relationships absolutely require mutual respect. No exceptions. They require both people trying hard, shared gratitude, and a totally equal exchange of energy. Once you clearly see that truth, you know for sure you can never, ever go back to being the person who accepted less than what your heart deserved. You've officially stopped running after people who are running away.
You simply got tired of giving your power away to someone else, and in doing so, you reclaimed the absolute freedom to create your own future. So, as we wrap up this explainer today, I want to leave you with one final provocative question to chew on. If losing someone else was the exact price required to finally find yourself, was it really a loss at all? Or was it the greatest investment you've ever made?